They say sleep is rest, a break, a time for your body and brain to recover from the day. You've heard it 100 times. Get your 8 hours. Sleep is good for your health. It keeps your mind sharp. And yes, all of that is true. But what if it's only part of the truth? What if sleep isn't just a biological need, but a doorway? What if sleep is not a pause, but a passage into something far more mysterious and meaningful? Most people believe that when we fall asleep, our consciousness just turns off, that we go blank for a while, maybe have some strange dreams, and then wake up refreshed. But there's another way to look at it, one that ancient cultures, spiritual traditions, and even modern experiencers all agree on. Sleep isn't the end of awareness. It's a shift, a transfer, a crossing into another layer of reality. You've probably felt it before. That strange sensation as you start to drift off. Your body gets heavy, but your thoughts become light. You begin to feel like you're floating, like you're being pulled somewhere else. Maybe you've had dreams that felt more real than waking life. Maybe you've woken up from one and thought, how could that not be real? Maybe, deep down, you've always sensed that sleep is more than just rest. From the moment we're young, we're told stories that help us make sense of the world. Why the sky is blue, why the stars shine, and what dreams are. But those stories are often designed to keep our curiosity contained. You're told that dreams are just your brain processing information, a jumble of memories and emotions. It sounds scientific. It sounds logical. But it only tells half the story. Ancient cultures around the world believed something very different. To them, dreams weren't meaningless. They weren't just flickers of memory or imagination. They were journeys, real experiences happening on another level of existence. In Egypt, Tibet, and many indigenous traditions, sleep was seen as a time when the soul left the body and traveled to other realms. People would return with visions, guidance, or healing. Dreams were seen as messages from the spirit world, not noise from a tired brain. But that idea has been pushed aside. Modern science, for all its incredible progress, often reduces consciousness to chemicals and neurons. It describes dreams as the byproduct of random brain activity. Sleep becomes a mechanical function, just another system in the body to be monitored and optimized. We're given apps, smartwatches, and checklists to improve our sleep quality, but none of them ever ask the deeper question: where do we actually go when we sleep? That's the question that starts to unravel everything. Because if your consciousness can exist and move outside the physical body, even temporarily, then everything changes. It means we are not just flesh and blood. We are something more. Something non-local. Something that can't be fully explained by biology alone. And if that's true, then the world we think of as reality might not be the whole picture. There are people today who consciously explore this other side of sleep. Lucid dreamers, astral projectors, those who've had near-death experiences, they all describe the same kinds of phenomena. Being aware inside a dream, leaving their bodies and watching themselves sleep, traveling to strange but vivid places, meeting beings, sometimes human, sometimes not, who feel familiar, wise, or deeply connected to them. These aren't vague, hazy impressions. People describe these experiences as more real, more detailed, and more emotionally intense than anything they've ever felt while awake. Colors are brighter. Sounds are layered and deep. Thoughts take on shape and form. The usual laws of physics break down. You can fly, pass through walls, or create entire landscapes with a thought. Time doesn't flow in a straight line. Everything feels alive, intentional, and charged with meaning. And these stories aren't rare. They're incredibly common. Across cultures, ages, and belief systems, people are having these experiences and have been for thousands of years. What's strange is not that they happen, but that we've been trained to ignore them, to brush them off as nonsense, to laugh at them over breakfast and forget them by lunchtime. Why? Because remembering, truly remembering, threatens the structure of the world we've been told to believe in. If sleep is more than rest, then dreams aren't just brain static, they're signals. They're evidence of something bigger. And if consciousness is not tied to the body, then we are more than just workers, consumers, or data points. We're explorers, travelers, beings with access to something beyond the physical world, and that makes us harder to control. The systems that shape our understanding of reality, schools, media, even mainstream science, have a vested interest in keeping sleep simple, making it about productivity, tying it to performance. Get better sleep so you can do better at work. Avoid burnout. Be more efficient. But they don't encourage you to ask the deeper questions. They don't want you wandering too far from the path. Because once you realize that sleep is not an ending, but a beginning, a transition into another realm, then everything else starts to shift too. Your dreams take on new meaning. Your nightmares become messages. Your moments of déjà vu, of intuition, of waking visions, they all start to connect. And slowly, you start to wake up. Not just from sleep, but from the illusion. This idea isn't new. Ancient mystery schools taught initiates how to use sleep as a kind of training ground. The body would rest, but the soul would travel. They described specific stages, how the breath would slow, the body would quiet, and then the spirit would rise, peeling away from this world and slipping into others. They taught techniques for remembering, for becoming aware inside the dream, for bringing back what was learned. Today, science has another word for this: REM sleep. Researchers can track it. They can measure the eye movement, the muscle paralysis, the brain waves. But all of that data still doesn't explain why people return from those states with new insight, emotional breakthroughs, or even information they had no way of knowing. Some people wake up speaking parts of languages they've never studied. Others solve complex problems that had stumped them for weeks. There are stories of people dreaming about inventions, discovering healing techniques, or receiving messages from deceased loved ones with details no one else knew. Are all of these coincidences? Or is sleep something much more powerful? The truth is, you don't just go to sleep. You go somewhere. Your body stays here, still and quiet, but something else, your awareness, your spirit, lifts off. It moves. It travels. And when you start paying attention, you can feel it. That moment between waking and dreaming when reality starts to bend. When you're no longer quite here, but not fully there yet either. It's subtle, but if you learn to notice it, it becomes unmistakable. Some people have trained themselves to stay conscious as this shift happens. They enter lucid dreams, or even leave the dream entirely and enter what's known as an out-of-body experience. In these states, they explore other planes, some that mirror our world, and others that are completely symbolic, abstract, or alien. They report meeting guides, teachers, and entities that feel deeply familiar, like they've known them for lifetimes. The messages they bring back are often life-changing. And here's what's most fascinating. Many of these experiences align. People who have never met, from completely different cultures and belief systems, describe similar places, beings, and events. It's as if these other realms exist independently of us, and we're all visiting the same places in our sleep, but interpreting them through our own mental filters. That's not just dreaming. That's a journey. And once you start seeing sleep this way, you can never look at it the same again. So the next time you're drifting off, don't just think of it as rest. Ask yourself, where am I going? And what will I bring back? Because sleep isn't the end of your day. It's the beginning of something much deeper. It's not downtime. It's not silence. It's access. And the question is, are you ready to remember what happens when you close your eyes? What if your dreams aren't just random images made by a sleeping brain? What if there's something more, something real, shared, and important? For years, people from all over the world who don't know each other and come from completely different backgrounds have talked about seeing the same places in their dreams. They describe cities full of light, enormous halls made of mirrors, floating temples in the sky, rooms where they're tested, and chambers where they're healed. They speak of meeting strange but intelligent beings, of receiving missions that somehow make sense even though no one taught them anything. These dreamers didn't share notes. They didn't gather in secret to plan stories. They often didn't even believe in the same things. And yet, their experiences are nearly identical. That's not coincidence. That's a pattern. If these stories were rare, we could dismiss them. But they're not rare, they're everywhere. They live in old spiritual texts, in dusty corners of internet forums, and in quiet conversations between people who stopped being afraid of what dreams really are. These experiences don't feel like imagination. They feel like something deeper, something real. Not random, not meaningless. Dreams, it seems, might be maps, messages, clues to a truth we've forgotten. We've been taught that sleep is just rest, that dreams are the leftovers of a tired brain, chaotic thoughts and emotions getting cleaned out. But that story doesn't match the experience of millions of people who say their dreams feel structured. They don't feel like accidents. They feel like something designed. Modern science often ignores this. It labels these experiences as subjective or hallucinations. Scientists say, well, the brain is weird, and move on. But they never ask the deeper questions. Why do so many people report touching things in their dreams? Why do they smell scents that don't exist in the waking world? Why do they speak with other beings and wake up changed? If it's all fantasy, why does it feel so real? The answer might scare some people because it suggests that this physical world isn't all there is, that the body is not the full story, that consciousness, your awareness, doesn't come from the brain, but simply passes through it. Maybe when you fall asleep, you're not shutting down. Maybe you're connecting, plugging into a bigger network, one that's been there all along. Maybe you're not dreaming at all. Maybe you're returning to a place that remembers you even when you forget it. And if that's true, we have to ask, why were we taught to ignore our dreams? Why were we told they're silly, random, or unimportant? At the center of your brain is a small, mysterious gland, the pineal gland. It's tiny, about the size of a grain of rice, and it sits in a quiet place surrounded by fluid and bone. Science says its job is to regulate sleep by releasing melatonin, a hormone that helps you rest. But many ancient cultures believed it does far more. The pineal gland has been called many names: the third eye, the seat of the soul, the bridge between realms. Ancient Egyptians linked it to the eye of Horus. Hindu traditions connected to the Ajna chakra, the center of insight and inner vision. Even the philosopher Descartes said it was the part of us where the soul lives. Why would so many cultures focus on this tiny gland if it was only about sleep cycles? Because they believed it was a gateway, a portal, a tool for seeing beyond this world. What makes the pineal gland even more interesting is that it produces a chemical called DMT, dimethyltryptamine. DMT is one of the most powerful hallucinogens known, and it's found naturally in the human body. Many scientists believe DMT is linked to near-death experiences, deep meditation, and, yes, dreams. During REM sleep, the pineal gland becomes active. Your body relaxes. The outside world fades away. And that's when something begins. A doorway opens. People who practice deep meditation or experienced altered states often describe strange physical sensations during this process. A buzzing or pressure between the eyebrows, light behind closed eyes, a feeling of being pulled or lifted. Some describe rising out of their bodies, traveling through tunnels, or entering huge, bright spaces filled with color and presence. These aren't poetic metaphors. These are real descriptions from real people across time, cultures, and languages who all say the same thing: that sleep isn't just rest. It's a journey, a shift, a kind of travel that doesn't involve moving your body. But the pineal gland doesn't work like a switch. You can't just turn it on. It needs silence, darkness, stillness. That's why it becomes active during sleep, when the noise of daily life finally stops and the world goes quiet. In that silence, the gland begins to pulse. Softly, subtly, but with power. And from that moment, the journey begins. Some believe the pineal gland is like an antenna, picking up signals from other dimensions. Others think of it as a lens, revealing things that have always been there, but were hidden. Whatever it is, when it activates, the quality of dreams changes. They become more vivid, more emotional, more real. You wake up feeling different, not just rested, but transformed, as if you downloaded something you didn't know you needed. This idea isn't new. In ancient Greece and Egypt, people would travel to dream temples, places built just for sleeping. Priests and mystics would guide them into dream states and help them interpret what they saw. They believed dreams were sacred, not personal, not private, but shared messages from the other side. But today, things have changed. Our world is filled with bright lights, fast schedules, chemicals, and distractions. All of it dulls the pineal gland. All of it blocks the connection. You were born with a key, but society gave you locks instead. You were told not to ask questions about your dreams, told they were useless, told to ignore them. Meanwhile, your inner doorway, your natural connection to a larger reality, was quietly closing. But here's the secret: the pineal gland doesn't shout, it whispers. And sleep is when its voice becomes loud enough to hear. Every night, it tries to open again. It waits for the stillness, the dark, the moment when your mind begins to drift. That's when it launches. That's when your awareness steps out of the ordinary and into the extraordinary. You've probably had dreams that didn't feel like dreams at all. Ones where you met someone who felt real, where you talked, hugged, cried. Maybe you woke up and felt heavy or inspired, or like something had changed inside you. Those weren't just dreams. Those were visits, contacts. You're not the only one having these experiences. Thousands around the world report the same thing: encounters. Not symbolic stories or strange images, but full interactions with beings who don't feel like parts of your mind. These dreamers meet ancestors, old friends, even strangers who guide or teach them. Sometimes they feel like reunions, other times like missions. They often wake with messages they can't explain, but somehow understand. And then there are the other beings: light forms, shadows, geometries of energy. Some are kind, some are watchers. Some don't speak, but radiate understanding. Many people describe being taken to strange places, schools, healing centers, rooms that feel like simulators. There's structure, rhythm, a system. This is not chaos. This is something bigger. So how much longer can we pretend everyone is imagining the same dream? What if sleep isn't downtime? What if it's check-in time? What if every night you're slipping out of this physical world and into another layer of existence? a place where time doesn't work the same way, a space where your soul connects to something larger, a place where you're watched, taught, protected. You are not alone in that space. You never were. Some beings just observe. They don't interact, but you feel them, heavy, ancient presences that seem to be watching over the process, not with judgment, with purpose, like gatekeepers of something we've forgotten how to see. You don't have to believe in aliens or spirits to feel this. All you have to do is remember the dreams that stayed with you, the ones you couldn't shake, the ones that felt too real. They weren't random. They were contact. And maybe, just maybe, that's why we're told dreams are meaningless. Because if we truly understood what happens at night, we'd start asking the kind of questions that make the illusions fall apart. We'd stop seeing ourselves as machines made for labor and start recognizing that we are travelers, souls having a human experience. And that changes everything. Sleep isn't just about rest. It's about remembering. Dreams aren't nonsense. They're messages. And you're not just a dreamer. You're a participant in a world more real than you've been told. Most people go through life without noticing the hidden signs around them. We walk past ancient symbols, carvings of pine cones in old Assyrian temples, the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill, and the third I found in spiritual teachings across the world. These aren't just decorations. They're clues left behind by those who remembered a deeper truth, that this world is not what it seems. What if life is actually a kind of simulation, one designed to teach us something? A school hidden under the surface of our daily lives. A test to see if we can wake up inside the dream, not just when we sleep at night, but also during the day while we go through our routines. From a young age, we're taught to ignore our dreams. We're told they're random, weird, or just the brain's way of resetting. But think about it. Why would the most complex part of your body fix itself by showing you strange, vivid, emotional stories every night? Why do people in comas dream? Why do so many people near death report visions of other worlds, other beings, and messages of light? The answer might be this. Sleep is not a flaw in our biology. It's not a bug. It's a feature. It's part of the design. A built-in portal to something beyond this physical world. When you understand that, your view of life starts to change. You begin to notice the distractions meant to keep your mind trapped in waking life, social media, non-stop noise, endless chasing. It all keeps you focused on what's in front of you, so you never ask what's behind it. Because if enough people remembered what really happens at night, the illusion would fall apart. The fear of death, the constant need for approval, the obsession with material things, it would all lose its grip. Every night, without even realizing it, you connect to something much older than this world. You close your eyes thinking you're going to sleep, but something inside you turns on. Not just dreams, but a deep transfer begins. A syncing process. You tap into your higher self, which starts to speak, not in words, but through visions, feelings, and symbols. You've been told these are just dreams, but they're not just background noise. They're the main event. While your body rests, your soul gets to work. It's sorting through the day, healing wounds, downloading lessons. Spiritual traditions have known this for thousands of years. They taught that sleep is when the veil between this world and others becomes thin. That's when real truth flows in. If you've ever woken up with an answer to a problem, a sudden idea, or a feeling you couldn't explain, you've experienced this. That wasn't just your imagination. It was information. A message coming from somewhere deeper. Your subconscious is more than a storage space. It's a bridge. It holds everything, your fears, your dreams, your purpose, and it's also a receiver. During sleep, it tunes into things your waking mind is too busy to hear. That's why sometimes you dream of the same thing over and over, or you see someone in a dream you've never met but feel like you know, or you visit a place that doesn't exist in this world but feels real. These aren't random. They're messages, missions, lessons created specifically for you. When you start paying attention, those messages become clearer. They grow louder. Some people call them downloads. Others say it's a kind of activation. Whatever you call it, what matters is what it does to you. It brings healing. It brings clarity. It reconnects you to the parts of yourself you forgot. This is why people cry in their dreams or laugh uncontrollably. Why they wake up feeling a strange peace or urgency. Because they didn't just rest. They received something. A memory. A mission. A part of themselves. In the deepest sleep states, you're not just dreaming, you're learning. You're being guided. You may find yourself in dream classrooms, walking through symbols, or facing old fears. Even your nightmares serve a purpose. They aren't punishments, they're processes. The mind and soul working through what you've been avoiding while awake. True healing doesn't always happen in a therapist's office. Sometimes it happens in silence, in the darkness of the night, between this world and the next. You can go to bed broken and wake up feeling whole, not because you got 8 hours of rest, but because your soul received exactly what it needed. Most people don't realize this. They fall asleep by accident. They scroll on their phones until their eyes blur and then drift off without any intention. But what if you changed that? What if you treated sleep as something sacred? Imagine going to bed not to escape the day, but to step into your real work, to connect with your higher self, to get answers you can't find in waking life. If you fall asleep with purpose, with questions, with attention, everything shifts. Try this. Before bed, ask a question. Don't focus on what you want to see, but what you need to know. Write your dreams down, even if they don't make sense. Even if it's just a feeling or a single word. That small act tells your subconscious, I'm paying attention. And when you do that, the messages get louder, clearer, fuller. Eventually, you'll start to remember more. Not just fragments, but whole scenes, emotions, insights. If you've ever become aware you were dreaming, what's called lucid dreaming, you know how powerful that is. The moment you realize it, the entire dream world bends to your will. You can fly. You can heal. You can ask and receive. No filters. No boundaries. But even without full control, you can still grow in awareness. That begins in the minute before you fall asleep. Let your final thoughts be full of meaning. Dim the lights. Set the mood. Speak to your higher self. Ask for help, for guidance, for memory. When you wake up, resist the urge to grab your phone. Stay still. Notice what you feel. What images linger. What words are echoing. Even if it doesn't make sense, it's real. You don't need fancy tools. You just need attention, presence, curiosity. Because sleep isn't the end of your day. It's the beginning of your deeper journey. It's a nightly meeting between you and the version of you that exists beyond time, beyond roles, beyond this world. Once you truly feel this, you'll understand why ancient people built temples for dreaming, why mystics spoke in symbols, why our current system wants you exhausted, distracted, and too drained to remember. Because if you did remember, if you came back each morning with clarity and purpose, if you stopped chasing things outside of you and started listening to the truth inside, you'd become powerful. You'd become free. So tonight, when you lie down, don't just fall asleep. Step into the portal. Invite your higher self. Ask to remember what has been waiting for you all along, not in some far-off place, but in a space you visited thousands of times already. Dreaming isn't the break from life. It's the real work, the remembering, the healing. The dream world is not just a fantasy. It's architecture, a hidden layer of reality where your soul gets updates, clarity, and truth. You're not just a body. You never were. You are something much greater, something that doesn't sleep, even when you do. Something that returns to source every night to bring back a little more light, a little more wisdom, and a little more of who you really are. And the more you listen, the more you'll remember. Because now you're ready.